What do Oscar-nominated editors know that we don't? Well, let's find out. Here's 5 important lessons from the best editors in the business.
It's true that when you hear about a project, sometimes for me, being slightly afraid is a good thing. It's a good sign. You're going to have to adapt and learn some new skills or go further.
What exactly does he mean when he says fear is a good sign? Well, of course, it's not that fear itself is a good thing. He's saying that, we shouldn't be afraid. But that when you feel intimidated by a project, that doesn't mean you should back away from it. This is actually something you can get excited about. And I've had that feeling so many times on editing projects, whether they're paid or for fun. It's always a new experience. Maybe it's something you've never edited before, a style you've never done, or it's the link that maybe you're intimidated by. But I encourage you to embrace that, because ultimately that's the only way you're going to grow as an editor, is doing new things and pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone to grow your editing muscles.
With Dune, it's like even more scary because the Herbert fans, they've already been so-called disappointed once, and there's, it's been a notoriously tricky book to adapt, and there we are with a kind of huge weight of expectation. And, actually the film had inside it some great comfort in that, which is it has the litany of fear, which is this brilliant piece of writing, I shall not fear.
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings obliteration.
And I love that he quotes these lines from Dune as being actually encouraging to him in the editing process itself. So you'll be surprised how many times you'll be editing something and the work itself will have the inspiration you need to get to the finish line.
Developing trust is so important, and that starts during production, especially when you're working with someone for the first time, showing several versions of scenes, giving them feedback every single day, so that they can see their film coming together before their eyes, and also getting verbal, whether it's written or over the phone, input from you about why things are working, what is really working, and also where the problems are. And by doing this every single day and just not being so precious about what you're doing, how it doesn't have to be super polished, but just to start getting it in front of them immediately, for them to hear from you every day. They know that you've got this. You're in the edit room, you've got their back, and they can trust you.
That last part right there, I think, is the most important, to let them know you've got this. Anytime that I've worked with someone and been hired to edit a video with somebody, the best thing I can do is constantly give them updates on where I am. And I highly encourage you to do this as well. Whether you're hired to edit a YouTube video or whether you are working with a director on a major motion picture, it's really important that they know where you are. Just giving them updates, just like she said, it doesn't matter if it's rough. And I've done this so many times where what I'm sending them, yes, it's kind of nerve-wracking to send to them because it's so far from the finished project, but you're working with somebody who also understands this vision, so they can imagine how it's going to look, and they know the reason they've hired you is because they know your talent. They know the level to which you will get this by the end. So don't be afraid to share as you're going and show your work, even if it's not fully finished. I think it's way better that they honestly know where you are at each point in the process. And to me, it always takes a weight off my shoulders because it's not this big build up to finally showing them, 2 weeks into editing and, then our visions are off or something. So communication is so important.
I have a saying sometimes, which is, what's the note behind the note?
The classic one, I'm sure we've all found that people are concentrating on a scene being too slow or not working, and then you realize it's not that scene, it's the one before it. And,
it's the setup or the
setup.
Or the conclusion or whatever it is that's side glance.
It's our job to decipher what the problem really is.
Once I started understanding the concept of note behind the note, it sort of changed the way that I thought when I get feedback from whoever I'm editing for. And if I'm on a phone call and I'm getting notes on the edit that I just turned in, I'm going to be thinking more in terms of the why and the emotions behind whatever the feedback is. And that immediately comes into my conversation with my client, whoever I'm collaborating with, because I want to find out, okay, you want this change to happen, and why do we need this change? What was it that I did in the edit that isn't serving the story? Instead of thinking very technically in terms of, okay, let me change this by 2 or 3 frames, you want to know, well, what would changing those 2 or 3 frames do? Because then maybe that can even lead to better ideas. So if you're thinking more in terms of the why, it can save you a ton of time, because then maybe they tell you a technical edit, but that doesn't really achieve it doesn't really solve the problem that they were really feeling was there. And then that leads to a lot more back and forth, where if you just try to get to the heart of the problem as soon as possible, it can save you a lot of time.
You know, you start with like a lot of bigger sweeping work, restructures, and dealing with the bigger problems, or recalibrating like a character arc and things like that. And then it's, you know, it gets finer tuned from there.
I think this lesson is critical for editors of all types, and no matter what project you're working on, it's really important that you understand the point of the project, and if it's a story, that you understand the character arc of it all, what the overall big picture story is when you make your first draft of the cut. You don't want to be chasing rabbit holes of getting caught up in details. You need to let yourself know that you can get to all those details. Even if you have ideas for specific things, maybe write those down and have them to the side, because you need to know that those can be addressed later. It's really important that you get the foundation as soon as possible. And I've learned this by trial and error many times, working for a client making a YouTube video where I think of some sort of joke or some sort of really cool graphic that I want to flesh out and do right there and then when I have the idea, but maybe I've only got a third of the story edit finished. So now I always know, let me focus on the story. If I need to create a Google Doc and type up an outline of what the story is, so I'm really thinking about it, or whether I need to put note cards of what the different scenes are and what the points of the scenes are. Sometimes that can really help if you take a step back from the computer and the actual edit. You're kind of doing editing on paper, and then you come back once you know what the story is and arrange everything. So yeah, give that a try. Start big and fine tune the details later on in the process.
I've talked to like students, they're like, I want to do what you do. Like, I know, but it's going to take a really long time. It's going to take you over 20 years to get to this place, probably. But don't worry, you're going to get there. You know, you have to have faith that you're doing what you love, and then you're going to get breaks, and you're going to meet people, you're going to build your networks, you have to be really patient.
This is kind of a hard pill to swallow, but it's super encouraging to me, and it's also super true. As I've learned even in my short career as an editor, especially compared to some of these Oscar-nominated editors who have been editing for longer than I've been alive, I've just learned that it's so true that if you are patient and you keep showing up as an editor every day and treating each project that you do with your best, the right path for you will be laid out ahead of you. And you just have to trust that it's going to be there and just keep going. That's the number one thing you can do, is you keep going. All of these Oscar editors here, they aren't there because they are geniuses. It's because they didn't stop becoming editors. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have some genius plan. They don't know what they're doing any more than you know what you're doing. It's just that they have had time to learn little lessons, trial by error, again and again, and they never stopped. So ultimately, the number one thing you can control is to not stop. And when you say, hey, I'm gonna be in this and I'm gonna keep going, and you just put one foot in front of the other, step by step every day, opportunities will open up to you, opportunities will come to you, people will come along on your path that will help you, mentor you, give you shots at things, and give you new opportunities to grow. So keep going, take heart, and man, with that, just have fun with what you're doing. Yes, it can be really hard, and the patience thing is not easy for any of us, and there's going to be times where you feel creatively burnt out. But remember that just each day, step by step, you are going to get there. The Oscar-winning dude himself said it, that you're going to get there. It's only a matter of time. And with that, let's get out there and go do some more editing together. Hey, and speaking of that, I really want to be a part of the editing community with y'all. I want us to form together and be alongside each other, encouraging each other on this path, because it's so much better when we are doing this thing together. So let me know in the comments, who are your editing inspirations? I want to learn from you, and I want to have a fun discussion down in the comments. If you leave a comment, I will reply to you, and we could just nerd out about editing and what has inspired us to be doing this awesome career path. So thank you so much, and have a happy day.